Okay, I think we've had you waiting for too long now. The reason for this delay is because there has been some miscommunication between us and our work studies in terms of how things are being scheduled on our website, which might have confused people. Hopefully there will be more coming in. Welcome to the second part of our workshop, I guess, the more practical sort of hands-on focus event. Just a few, I mean, we will probably, I'll pass it on to João in a bit. Before I do that though, a few reminders. So today, if you receive my emails, today was the suggested deadline for the students from your departments to submit poems to you for selection, and then now ideally you should have a week. You should have a week to go through these submissions, and then next Friday is when you submit the poems to us. And by us, I mean either myself or João or the two of us, and then we'll take it from there. The actual event is on April 20th. We hope to do it in Casa Hispanica perhaps. We're struggling a bit with the venue here, but we will have it all worked out by the time we have to. And I think there's anything else. No, that's it. We hope that this workshop will be useful, practical, and that you guys will enjoy it. Now, oh yes, and anything, it will be recorded too, just like our previous events. We do have a channel on YouTube where we put all these events, we upload everything. If you go to YouTube, just look for Columbia LRC, and that is where you'll find everything that we do. Okay. If you haven't signed in, please do so. There's a sign-in sheet right here. And João, do you want to take it home from here?
Thank you. Well, thank you for coming. Thank you everybody for being here. That's the second part. We did the first one a couple weeks ago before the spring break, and during the first workshop, some colleagues asked us if we could do something more like hands-on and showing activities and how to work with poetry in the classroom. And so what I prepared for today is actually a number of activities that we're going to do together, and we can discuss if it works, doesn't work, and all the activities here are open for change, for criticism, for questions, for doubts, or vetoes, maybe, if some things that might work for me might not work for others, and or languages. And so I have a series of activities, of all kinds of activities, using our bodies, just sitting and writing. And what I like about this room is that this is not an ideal room for language teaching, but it's going to work for us because we're going to try to make the best of what we have here in this setting of not moving chairs and everybody not seeing each other. So how can we work with even the environment that we have around? And so our first activity is actually just one quick writing activity. And I'm sorry, I forgot to open this. Thank you. So what we're going to do here is, so let's just, I have a question here, but this is actually a question that we're not necessarily answering right now. So what I do here is I'm going to give each of you 4 note cards, 4 different colors. In each color, each note card is going to have one piece of information or something that you're going to write or maybe not write. And we're going to work on this again later. So the idea for this first activity is an activity that it continues throughout the semester or the week or whatever you're doing. I usually use this one here, and I have the students say note cards, and we come back a week later, once we do some other activities, or even in the beginning of the semester. So for what you have here is, for the green, we're going to try to answer what is a poem, what a poem is. Right? For the pink, we're going to answer what poetry is. So this is the poem, this is the poetry. For the orange, our question is, who can be a poet? And for the yellow, the question is, it's not a question, it's I am. And then you finish this. I am, and then you finish this. And your first question could be, so why is this not on the board? Why is it not on the board? And the simple question is, I forgot to put it in the PowerPoint. There's no technique behind not having the answers here. So I apologize. So I'm going to use the board for the questions. Okay. So I'm just going to ask you guys, you can just pick one of each color and then have 4 note cards each, and then we get back here. If you want to, I think you might need that information later. So we're just going to talk a little bit. You don't need to finish. You can finish this later. We're going to go back to the note cards later. So one of the questions that we get a lot, like about poetry, and that's why I have those questions, like what is it, and who can be a poet, who writes poetry? It's it's the common idea that nobody, like not nobody, but it's not for everybody, and it's difficult, it's not, people don't enjoy it. So I think one of the key points of poetry in the classroom, in the language classroom, is actually the idea of a pleasure of reading poetry. It just bringing poetry into the classroom, like showing the students short poems, readings, and show videos, different types of poetry. And that's what I'm going to do today, is like show you different types of poetry, different types of poets, and how they write poetry in different languages. And this could be activities that goes from like first day of class, first contact language, into the most advanced ones. So our first activity, and this is something that I borrowed from a colleague in our department, in the Spanish department. So I'm going to give you, it's called like 11, and I'm going to give you this sheet of paper here, and they're going to write one word, just like you, one word in English here, the first one, just the first one, okay? And any word that comes to your mind, anything that you want to say, just one word and the first word, okay? So, you guys, so 1, 2, 3. Okay. Just the first word. Yeah, one word, the first line. First line. Oh, let's do it in English, right? So it's our common language? I don't know. Yeah. Let's just, I found all the activities today to do in English, where like most of us are like English foreign language learners as well as so, and then we have like the common route in English, and then we can discuss for other languages afterwards.
So what do we write on this?
One word.
Okay.
Any word. Okay? Okay, now I'm going to ask you to pass it around to the person next to you, and then it doesn't matter the order.
What order?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Just get a different. Yeah, just get a different.
I already got one.
I need one.
Yeah.
I need one.
She needs one. You need one?
How about to give? Yeah.
I haven't attended with anyone. I'll give it to you.
You don't. Okay. And now let's do two words. You have the first word, that's your topic. And now continue that idea with two other words.
The same one.
You don't have one?
No, I have one, but I passed it.
So,
Somebody has two. Well, you was one. No, now I wanted to.
Or words that are related to it.
So now,
We do like any kind of parts.
so now you have a title. Let's put it, you have a topic.
Okay, this is title.
So you have a topic.
Okay.
That's your topic. So now you have two words for your topic. And now you write two words that you think are connected to your topic.
Next.
And then we rotate again.
Again, for 3 words.
Anywhere.
Yes, I have it.
Okay. Hold on.
I'm done.
No, I don't think it's there.
When we sit in circle. And now 3 words. Go for 4 words now. Let's exchange. Let's exchange again. That's why when we sit in circles, it's so much easier.
You know, work with what you got.
Yes.
This is what makes a boat, huh?
I know it number 4.
You want to change?
Can you help?
Maybe.
4 words now.
No, I need the 4 words.
Okay.
You've done it?
Yeah, again.
I haven't done 4 words yet.
What about this?
I haven't done 4 words yet.
That's what I
So
want
give
to
it
do.
to Santander.
Okay, I've done the 4. You understand?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Wait. Once you've done the 4 words,
Okay.
wait.
I can.
And now, I want you to get, once you have 4 words,
Here.
Try to find your first word.
My first word?
Try to find out your first word.
Satisfaction.
So you have to
Try-
search.
Yeah. So what are we
We
doing?
search how we're working.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. So now what are we doing here?
Travel, to get travel.
Who has satisfaction?
Satisfaction.
Travel.
Do you want to do 4 words? You can do the already.
I need it.
Everybody.
Alice is
Are you
right.
talking about words?
No, but I did 3 on this one. Should I do 4 words on this one? No.
Yeah, let's just do it for the sake of the.
Travel. Anybody?
No, this is not mine.
No, I know. See,
No?
the 4 words.
Well, you need more.
Oh, wait. She has no one. She change.
This is mine.
Oh,
So I should have this one on the last one.
Yes.
it's not yours.
Who
Oh,
had
that's
sadness? Who had sadness?
No.
Sadness is as far as you can.
It's not another word, it's not, but it's not.
Friends?
Rain?
No, not rain. It's snow, but it's. Both of you have snow. Find your handwriting.
Oh.
Oh my God.
Anyone else in my job?
This is a good one.
No,
Okay,
this is
snow, another snow.
Okay.
Who wrote rain?
Rain.
Woman.
Rain.
This is woman. Okay, you were saying
Rain.
that whole thing.
But then
So I
we-
do 4 and the last one?
We wrote rain.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, now what?
Wait, let's just wait. Okay, so let's say that we now have, so what we're doing here is we're working with vocabulary and collective writing and different expectations. You have your first word, and then you probably have an expectation of what this was about, and we don't know if the expectations are different or not different, and what you receive. If this is a word, a collective word, and now you have your own, like how it started, and now it's your chance to finish and say, what is it that you want to say now with the last word, because that's how it started. And how is it that you're going to finish this? Is it totally different from what it started, and this is not what you expected, and it's
Who's with the colorless skin? Chomsky's alive. Wow.
Chomsky's alive?
Yeah, colorless skin, you know, you have the colorless. Yeah, Chomsky's alive.
Chomsky, what?
Have you seen it?
yes.
Let's see.
I'm using illustration.
I submitted my little power card.
Oh, that's yours. We're going to use it later. You can keep it on.
I thought you.
I am not able to go.
Oh, no, not now, later. Okay, so do we have any volunteer that would like to read to us? What do we have?
Sure.
Okay, so we have 2. Please, you go first.
Okay, travel, far away, to see beauty, and to see me.
Oh, nice.
So nice, I'm like-
Really nice.
Yes?
Satisfaction is hard to achieve today, but not impossible, right? Live.
You're so literal.
Of course.
I agree.
So what we're doing here is, it depends on what class we are. If it's elementary, advanced, we can have that kind of discussion, or it depends on what techniques you use. If you allow to use English or not in class, if there's another common language. But this is a nice introduction to simple and poetry, just using words and basic words. So what do we have here? Okay, this could work in any level, any way, and we could go with other variations of this. Yeah, that's what you said.
No, we can read. We can read Portuguese. Or was it Spanish?
Was Spanish, yeah. It's fine. So now I have one more activity. This one I use a lot of my classes, and again, it's well, you have here the poem here is all separate in different lines. What I'm going to ask you to do in pairs or in groups, try to put it in order that you think it's poetic or not poetic. Okay, and then we're going to see what happens.
Nada is
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I can. There's
Yes, work together.
Do we stay voting for something or we just order?
You can just order. Yeah.
And do we have to, like, use all of them?
No,
Or do you have to use all of them?
it's your decision.
It's just creating a point.
Yes.
Oh, so it's not voted.
You were right or wrong. Yeah.
It's flat, right? João, is it from your request?
Yes.
Very well.
Okay. You do?
Yes, here, like,
Sabemos. Okay, so this again, working in groups, working in pairs or individually, it's your decision. What I like about this activity, because what I gave you is actually a whole, like a real one. It is. And it's actually in 3 parts, and it's actually in 3. It's actually in 3 parts, and what we're doing here is show the elasticity of poetry and how this works. And the poem is actually here on the back of and then can you just ask the students to turn it back, and then you can read it, and it's here, and then that's not a question again of right or wrong. It's just a matter of construction, and then what we can do here is discuss idea, discuss meaning, and you may have the poet in your classroom, and then you can actually discuss the construction of poetry with the author in your class, and it's here. And if anybody wants, you guys can take the copy of this one here, the slips, and I made some extra copies, and just so you know, it's my poem. I wrote it. It's in my book. So, and that's why I picked this one. And that's what I love about it, because it's not butchering, it's actually reconstructing. But I love this idea of destroying and reconstruction, and putting it together. And this is one of the things that I do a lot with poetry in my performances. It's actually work together, okay? And if you guys want, I have extra copies here for everybody. So, and
Work with poems in English or in...
oh no, this I did it for class in Portuguese, because this is actually I wrote in Portuguese. So what I did with this one is last year I did a presentation of my book, and my book is all in Portuguese. So I invited friends and poets to translate my poetry, and this was actually translated by a student. Actually, she was a student, and she translated, and she read in English, and I read in Portuguese. So now that I'm thinking of the publication in English, I added her translation into future publication, because I actually like her translation a lot. So, but of course you work it in your classes, and some of them have the slips on the back, so it's fine in case you
Just for us?
if you want to. Yes. We use some of these slips, so
The slips are on circulate.
yes. But you can take them. You can take them if you want.
Do you want to see the result or no?
Yes, but I don't think we really have time. I wish I could. I wish if you guys, I don't know.
This is what's happening.
Yes, you know what? I'm gonna take quick pictures of what you guys
Yes.
have, so we can save this for later.
This is how I can diabetes, just what we
Yes.
took out and what. Yes, okay. So it's, keep it there for immortality.
Do you know how you first you have the dead person?
Yeah, the first is we are very proud.
Oh, you got exactly the same?
Number two, like, no, not exactly, so like two.
But you got the same. Wow. You know, as a student. Okay, now the next activity is one that I like a lot, and I use a lot. This is a poetry and art. I mean, art is poetry, poetry is art. But I'm talking about visual arts here. So it's using visual arts in your classroom for writing. It could be writing anything. We're talking about poetry. So what do we have here? This is an image, and I picked this one because this sculpture is actually an exhibition. It's a permanent collection at MoMA. So you can just go to MoMA and see. This is by Giacometti, the Italian, and also there's a movie coming out with about his life, not about his life, but some part of his life. It's at the end of his life. It's coming out in a couple of weeks. So it's like put everything together. So we can just start with questions like I don't know, what do you see in the image? More students.
A dying dog.
You are. Oh wait, that's what do you see?
A dying dog.
Skeleton.
Skeleton.
An underfed dog.
Oh wait, you see a heart.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't see a dog.
No. What do you see?
Creature.
A creature.
Skilo.
Oh, someone knows Greek.
No.
Okay, and then we can ask questions of what is it made of, right? What is it looking for? And the questions that I have here, they're actually guided questions because what we're doing here, we're actually reading a poem by Robert Wallace, who's an American poet, and he actually wrote a poem about this sculpture at the museum. So I had a copy here so we can take a look at it. And actually the copy comes from a book. And on the back, you have the reference. It's a book on poetry and how to use poetry in the classroom. So, and you got it. And I also got the copy of the book because it's the only copy that I can find with the exactly spacing. Because when you go, and that's something very important when you work with poetry. Sometimes you find poetry online, and it's like, it's good that maybe you should, especially with modern poets, take a look at the construction. Because this one here is, if you read online, and you see, this is a very common activity, and you see a lot of activities with this, and most activities are actually not the way the poem was designed. And I think spacing is really important when we talk about poetry. And that's something that we should talk with our students in our classes. This is actually, the poem is Comedy's dog. And that's why the questions are actually guided to dogs. But it could be a creature, it could be a heart. It's so, and I think I like this one here because it's so New York, because it says, lopes and groans, scruffy thin, in the Museum of Modern Art. Head down, sadness, and you see like net yoga sadness, you see a dying dog, so we can see all the connections with the images. So, thinking of an activity, I made a very biased selection here for you guys because I picked this image for some reasons. Reason number one, she's a Brazilian artist. Reason number two, there's a current exhibition at MoMA right now. It's a retrospective of her life. So I was like, let's put in class. And maybe we're going to go to the MoMA and see. We're actually taking our students in a couple of weeks. So this is Tarsila Amaral, 1928. The name of the painting is Apapuru. Okay? And there's no poem about this one. And this is what we're not going to do here because I want to show more activities. But the idea is an image. And we're in New York. What do we have here that is from your culture, your language, or related that we can actually bring to class? And so this is actually happening right now. The fact that we can see this, and then we go to MoMA and we actually see the painting. It's just out of like a couple of minutes. So what do you see in the image? Like this is an iconic, classic Brazilian painting. It's like our representation, and ironically, it belongs to Argentina, the painting. So if you guys know a little bit about soccer, you know how harsh it is for us Brazilians to know that this painting is actually in Argentina and not in Brazil. But now it's in New York, so it's our chance to go, take it, and take it back home, maybe. So what do you see here? Just like a couple of minutes, so just we can activate a little bit of words. I don't know. Okay, you see? Okay, so you see, like, if I were to teach exactly this, I would take advantage of, like, she says, like a man and person. This is a very interesting thing for my thinking of my language, that there's a man or a person. So how does it change our perception in writing about it? And this is enriching for us to think, or people who actually see the tree and not the person or the front image. Okay. So this is just a connection with visual arts and poetry. My next topic is sound poetry. So we're going to work with sound poetry, sound and poetry and sound. Is anybody here familiar with the idea of sound poetry? No?
Like musical, so like you read poetry with music.
That too. Not necessarily music, but sounds. So that's why they call it sound poetry, because the idea is not only music, but actually sounds. So working with sounds. So we, let's see if we can play this one here. No. It's his voice over his voice and different sounds. So this is what
What's the second word? Pedra, Zuberek, agua, solos.
I don't remember. Terra. No, I don't remember. I can listen to him later. No. But he's a Brazilian poet. So how do we bring sound poetry into the classroom? There are many ways. One of my favorite activities is actually recording sounds. Having students record sounds. Sounds up there? Yeah, we just got one here. Thank you for the lively participation of my student here.
We're creating poetry.
Yes. And
The water picture of the dog.
The creatures.
So this is a video that I just found for the workshop. It's like this person using different sounds. So how I would do this is just like recording the sounds. What is it that you hear? What is it that you hear? And then from the concrete, like what do you hear, or how do you feel, or what do you see when you hear the sound? Working with the senses, like what do you see when you hear the sound, right? Or what do you feel when you hear the sound? So working with, and then again, we're like the concrete sound, the experience of sound, or the images of sound, right? And I'm like personally very interested in synesthesia, which is a condition that some people actually have. They mix up the senses. I don't know if you've heard about this, and there's a book like The Man Who Ate His Hat by Oliver Sacks, and Oliver Sacks did a lot of research with synesthetic people, and it's pretty much people who see sounds or they taste colors, and this is actually a brain condition. And in the book, it's The Man Who Ate His Hat. So because they experience the senses in different ways, right? So they don't see colors, but they taste colors.
I had a friend who has synesthesia,
when she was trying to explain to me, she said that it's like my name. It's like gold. She actually like the words you could see also like they have texture and color.
Yes, yes, exactly. So
Yeah.
it's not a disease, it's not a dysphoria, and that's what it's not. It's considered just a neurological condition. So, and it's not, so that's why it's and Oliver Sacks wrote extensively about it in his career. So sounds, let's go back to our poetry here. Okay, this, it's a type of poet, Italian modernism, and I think I mentioned in the first workshop. This is what we can construct with sounds. And sounds are very rich for language classes because each language experiences sound in very different ways. And we can actually work with this in our classes. And I usually use like barking, right? Barking in Portuguese is ow ow. And this is how we write barking in Portuguese. So how do we write the sounds of the video that I have, like a pen, like the click of the pen? How do we? This is totally different in different languages, and this is one. So like make using random sounds here. So this is again from the same poetry book, and this is a poem by João, like in the kitchen after the aimless chatter of the plates, the murmuring of the gas, the trickle of the water pipes, and the sharp exchanges of knives, forks, and spoons. This is not, it's not sound poetry in the sense that I showed you the video, but it's the use of sound in poetry. And this is what we do in our classes. So animals like barking or the different sounds, and how do we experience sounds? This is very enriching for our perception of language.
Presentations, I did a class 2 days ago with a poem with the sounds and sensation, cold, hot, and some other sounds and some other smells, and so that's a real poem. There's all these
Exactly. And I like, in terms of sensations and also like different social perceptions, one of my favorite things that I like to talk in my classes, it's students, when I talk to students about vanity, like to be vain. It's actually a positive thing in Portuguese, in Brazilian culture. So if I tell you, oh, you're so vain, I'm actually complimenting you. So I know, because of course when I say it in English, it's not the same when I'm thinking in Portuguese. In English it sounds horrible. But so those ideas that are also how do we perceive like social norms and how do we talk about it. So I never use the word vain in Portuguese. I mean I could, but mostly I'm going to take it as a positive compliment. And vain is actually very common in poetry, in Brazilian poetry. Okay, this also is the use of image, and we're not going to do it because we don't have time, but what I do here is, I do it by elementary classes, intermediate classes. I have a list of questions, and I ask students to answer taking pictures, not using Google Images. Taking pictures, not using Google Images, not using previously taken pictures in their lives. Take pictures. So I go questions like, what's your name? Where do you live? What do you like to do after class? What do you wear on weekends? What's the color of your hair? And the students have a couple of days to answer the questions. This activity actually comes from Augusto Boal. Augusto Boal is a Brazilian theater director, and in the 70s, he actually, during the Latin American dictatorships, he visited many Latin American countries, and he developed this technique as a way to have the working class that he was working with to say without actually compromising their well-being for being arrested or for saying things that they're not supposed to. So he would distribute cameras to the actors or to the participants in the workshops, and they would actually answer questions, like where do you live? And those questions could actually show a lot of their local reality in the country. So things that I could not say verbally, they had the images. So the historical importance of this activity, to bring it today to class, and then again, we're constructing different writings. So bring the images to class, and then you can do it so many ways, like an exhibition of photos, and students have to see what was the question here for this photo, or pick one and have students compare. So, and then create visual poetry, and we're gonna get to visual poetry. Okay, we moved the sound poetry. It's over. It's visual now. And so talking about visual poetry, we get concrete poetry. Okay. This is an example in English. Concrete poetry, we usually talk about, it came in the 40s, it's a very modern, but actually have representation
Earlier than the 40s.
of concrete poetry, like from God knows when. There's
With a matter,
there's tons of examples of concrete poetry.
Antiquity.
Yes, but what I'm using here for concrete poetry, I'm actually using examples from modernity, post 40s. No specific reason, it's just because it's the ones that I know better. So this is actually an Italian writer, and we have 3 poems here. Ping pong, wind, this is actually wind, and this is blow. So blow, grow, show. The pictures from the previous activity, it could be made into concrete poetry or visual poetry or simply photos, photo exhibitions. We can work in different ways. There's always a question, how can I work with concrete poetry? How can I bring concrete poetry into the classroom? There's one, just appreciation or reading, or try to read, or try to understand meaning, or try to show meaning. Use of simple words, use of sounds and visual again. And so, I'm going to propose that we do a concrete poem, and I'm going to do an activity that I usually in my classes, and I call it the post-it poem. So what do we have here? I'm very visually colorful, so I have different colors here, and I have different post-its. Again, in my ideal classroom, we're sitting in one table in circle, so things get easier to move around. So what I have here is post-its in different colors. So our first step is, I'm going to circulate the post-its, and you guys can pick as many as you want. 1, 2. You write 1 word, 2 words. You have smaller ones, bigger ones, and different colors. Tiny ones, and non-used ones, and 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to just let you guys enjoy it for this is, again, talking about concrete poetry, talking about visual poetry, talking about, the senses, touching, tactile poetry, or words. So, play with words and size of words and sentences. Okay, so, I don't know. So, right now, just use it. And then, later, let's see later. I have smaller ones here that you can use. Me too. Yeah, this is just part of what I have. You guys can break in two. You guys can split it. You can feel free to. I have pencils in different colors. If you guys want to, so you guys can write in different colors if you want to. Those are like pencils from a. They're from the South Brazil. No, it didn't. But you can buy it in Brazil. Like this is. Yeah. So it's like wood that it's just going. Yes. Oh, really?
It's a huge thing in Greece and London when you have this little tree.
So when you have different questions for different levels, for elementary, questions are grade level, for junior questions, I go like more into abstract questions, like how do you feel about university, what is it like, like how do you experience New York, and where do you come from?
So to bring these photos and glass.
So
then
it's your, I usually so much more it depends on how much time. If I have time to prepare, I ask them to send me the pictures in advance. Then I create a PowerPoint. That happens once every 5 years when I have the time to do it. So I usually have to do the PowerPoint or just print some, one or two things to the line.
What do we do? That's what she does.
Whatever you
A feature?
A
feature with words?
Yes.
Just words.
Or yes, how do you see it? Yes.
What do you have the instruction is like?
We need to write words.
Oh, okay. So that's the
I'm not gonna use it.
Look at this color, right?
It's a beautiful color.
So, just like so we can keep going, so what I usually do here is, once you have the words, you have a bank of words. If it's a smaller class, you can just put all the words together and students work in pairs. And then if you want to do one big one, just put like a concrete home here collective work of words floating around. And that's a post-it because the post-it you can move around. And I like this idea. Smaller groups, you put together. So, okay.
Yeah, if you want to put everything together in one place, I don't know what's the like.
Oh yeah, let's put everything together here. So let's make one creative collective. Yes. Let's,
Creative commons.
yeah.
Right?
Let's put in our imaginary
Here one's a
table
beautiful.
here.
I feel like
That was. Very specific. Early. Give them to me, I will take them there. I'll be good when you're discussing.
Don't forget.
The eye, you want the eye? You have to throw the activity of João.
There's no distraction.
Actually, there is your. That's not what I did, she did it. I said she,
No, I
and
thought,
we did it.
We did it.
I don't
we
actually.
did it together, exactly.
This is a collective work.
So what I would do here, if we're doing like a group work, we can sit together, rearrange, and see ways that it makes sense, or it's like a collective decision, a collective bargaining of keep this word, don't keep this word, maybe add words, not add words. So this is all like
Good to your.
Doesn't allow this to use,
come on, it's
to use so many plastics.
It's fried.
That's also on camera now.
Yes. So
Don't CCTV.
from here, you have many possibilities. Like, as I said, a collective decision in how this is going to work or not, the separation, separate, different, adding words, not adding words. And, okay, there's no place. And this is, and then again, it depends on how we want to work with this, like separating colors, separating words, separating, creating sentences, adding words, writing here and not writing here, or making the rules as we go, and there are many possibilities. So this is an example of concrete poem. Wordplay. I have this one here because I use that a lot in my classes. It's in Portuguese, but I translated some words. So what I do here in this poem is actually they transform the nouns into verbs. So, like futebol, I think futebol, everybody gets it, right? So, so it's like something like I soccered. I soccered yesterday. I cigaretted. So I cigarrei. So transforming nouns into verbs. This is an amazing activity. It's amazing how it works and how creative they get and what they bring to class, because they have to actually look for words, they have to look for nouns, and they actually have to think of it. And I think for Spanish, I can say too, in terms of language, like the construction.
For Romance languages.
For Romance languages, for sure, the construction of languages and the verb tenses. And so, am I making this an AR verb, an ER verb? Like, so
they have to recycle the patterns.
Exactly.
Or the pattern.
exactly. I mean, so like for like AR, ER, IR verbs. So am I creating a new pattern here? So like in this case, soccer becomes an AR verb, futebol, and there's no necessarily rule of why it becomes, but it's, well, obviously it's because it's the most common in Portuguese, so it's the natural. So, like, we tabled, soup, rice. So this is like, how do we work, playing with words and construction of verbs and construction of nouns. Another activity that we're not going to do this. We're good at 10 minutes. Good? Yeah. Okay. Many things. So this is what I call like the writing circle. The writing circle is this.
The wonder bag.
So this is actually could be a box. So what I do here is I separate the class in two groups. One group is in the middle with the box or the bag. The other group is on the back writing. So the idea of poetry and writing classes, it's always have people writing. So this activity, so we have here, we're going to tell a story, picking out the objects from the bag. The people in the circle, they're speaking. People in the back, they're writing what they hear. Okay? And then later we get together and we polish the story. It's really good. Like work with all like language and grammar constructions and how this works. Okay? And I also play with this with another game. This game I got from a playwright, like when I was doing like a playwriting workshop, which is a memory. Let's see if it's. So the memory game is people in I usually use this one here, the big one. So we're together in a circle or a group, and each person is going to share a memory. And one person is going to write down that memory. Again, it's a collective work. There's no rule of who's going to write it, who's going to say. It's organic. So I share my memory, and if you feel like writing down my memory, you get the notebook or the piece of paper and the pen, and you write down my memory. It's just like make sure that we have one person speaking and one person writing. This could be rotating. Okay. And then later we get some amount of writing, and we're going to work with that. And then if it's going to be poetry or narrative or an essay, it depends on how you want to work with this. It's again, it's actually a song, but I usually use this one in my class because this is a Brazilian singer singing in English, and you can actually learn a lot of Portuguese the way we speak English, so, or the way we our mistakes. So what I do here is I have the words here, and if the PowerPoint is not so high up, what I usually do.
Stick the
Yes.
text
Yeah. But we're going to be jumping around, so we're going to fit. But the words here. So what I'm doing with this activity, well, one, listening and trying to understand the words, and the words that I picked here are words that could help us build something. Write a poem, write a short text, write sentences. So I was thinking on elementary level with like verbs and nouns and pronouns. So we have, where is it? That's the last one. Like pronouns and verbs, so we can actually construct short sentences here with the words. So, and I pick the words out of the song, and then you can play with this, right? Just so we, slips of papers around, and you just wait when you listen to your word, right? So that's Is that right now? You can have what do you do? If we're sitting in circles, we actually see each other, and we can see that we have to work. So we're here. If you're in the environment that you can actually see each other, like showing the words that you're listening, or like you guys are actually like, no, it's you. You're actually we're monitoring each other here. So and this I do that in my class with actually recorded poems. We have poets that actually recorded and they can actually listen and then play with the words, and it actually works too. And what's not on YouTube nowadays. 2 seconds. This is visual Portuguese Brazilian poem, and just I can show you later because it's just like how you can actually construct and use the internet with poetry. We get this, the memory game that I explained. Poetry from personal experience. This is what we could do, like elementary level. Think about important moments in your life, your hometown, words that describe a place. Advanced, you can actually have something more elaborate for the students. Sorry. And back to technology. So for technology, this is what I'm going to show you.
Onde quer que você esteja, em Marte ou Eldorado, abra a janela e veja o céu quase.
It's not complicated to make. If you guys, I don't know if you can notice, but actually the symbols are the same letters or the same sounds. And this is going to end. A final question about this correction grading. How do we do this and work? No grading. My answer to it's never grading. I wish I could just not grade period. But so if I have anything to say about this, is construction and the work of the students. It's fine. We should not be necessarily grading. This is a moment with a contact with language. It's an authentic contact with language. It's their creation, and if you want to work later with more specific aspects of grammar or language, it's up to you. But I think I go back to what I said at the beginning, the idea of pleasure. That the students also derive pleasure with the classroom. Yeah. And if we're going to work with correction, my suggestion is workshops. And that's why I had this back here, which we're not going to do, but it's just going to explain to you. So what I had here is one last one that it's going to finish writing. And so with the post-its, the note cards that we have in the beginning, what I would do here is using the things that you wrote at the beginning. Now we're gonna write a poem already, the final, your masterpiece. And what I would do it is we write it if we were to do it in that time, and when we work the ideal workshop, we help each other. We read each other's work, we give suggestions, And I use a lot of post-its for suggestions, and the students put in post-its so we don't write on each other's work. So we use the post-its for comments, for suggestions, or sometimes if the students see misspelling or something that it may be or not, or just actually suggestions. Is it better how you write it, or maybe is it your intention? Because I think for poetry and for fiction, we can always work with intention. So if you write something that it's not necessarily standard, was it your intention here? Or no? The question of intent to the students to see, because you may do it, like I work a lot of questions of gender, and as we're going to see next week when we talk about queer pedagogy, but the questions of gender for like Romance languages, it's like, it's intentional, like that you are working with this here in this or not. If it's not intentional, should we change, or maybe it's an intentional thing that actually works? So the workshop and the correction with post-its and the marking and asking each other questions, it's a way to avoid, in my perception, the idea of right or wrong. And how do we approach the right or wrong in our language classes? So, I don't know if you guys have any questions, comments, or suggestions.
How often do you do this in the classroom?
I try to bring as much as possible. Like we're having this discussion over our classes, and for next semester, for next year, we're getting rid of the textbook. So one of my ideas actually to bring more. Like if I'm working with verb tenses, I try to bring a song or a poem, or that I can actually discuss the topic with this. So I use more music than poetry, but I don't know how often, but I would say every week I bring something creative to class.
Because that's the question, the creative part, all of them are creative in a sense, and even some activities when you give them images to describe orally or to write about it. So we use a lot of this material. The part of writing in a poetic manner or in a literary manner, the students react to this. Most of them by saying, I'm not a poet, I'm not a writer. Some of them get stressed out of this. So just that part, the right poetry or literature part, do you just do it once a semester as I don't know, in 2-3 weeks time, some part of the class is going to that? Or are you trying to incorporate that more?
More. I don't work with the idea. I try to show my students the idea of nobody is a poet and everybody is a poet. So take the pressure out of this. We're not constructing some word that it's going to be, or maybe yes. So I try to do it as many times as possible, and just respect. And if I have to work language, I do work with language, but it's like what I try to do is this, I take the pressure out of this. This is not a creative writing class, and we're not necessarily our final project. It's not a book, as in a creative writing class here at Columbia, but they can write, and maybe it could be, it looks like a poem, or maybe it's not, but we're not necessarily going to be judging what it is and what's not a poem, but it's like they're working with language, like how they work with language and create more possibilities to see language that it's not only in the textbook or in video, but different ways of experience language. So it could be.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about the competition. How can we assess it from the points from different languages? For the poetry competition.
We're not competing among languages. Every, the ones that you sent, they're represented for your language. We're not we're gonna have a publication and a presentation of every language that participates. So, and what we're gonna do, if we have time, and if it works out, it's like have a translation into English of every poem. And if that works, perfect. If it doesn't, maybe in the future. But there's no, no. So if we have, I would love to say 40 or 54 languages participating. Yeah, but I don't think it's gonna happen, but I know it's gonna happen. Yeah, but I think we have already a good number of languages participating, but the idea is like that when we have the Festival of Poesia, everybody who has sent is gonna present, is gonna read or have it the language represented. You want to say something?
Maybe if you...
Yes.
Sure, I don't know when I should expand on this or not. This is, again, still very much a work in progress. By this time next year, we'll hopefully have a lot better idea of how this is going to work or how it will not work, depending on how it turns out. To go back to this conversation, yes, this is not going to be a competition. It's how do you evaluate this? It's, it's poetry. The way I'm thinking about this, and João, chime in if you don't think this is a good idea, is to, once we receive those submissions, accept them formally, and then sort of get back to you guys as the instructors to see if the students would be interested in translating them into, well, first of all, into presenting them, and then into translating them into English, so that the participants can, also take part in the event, they don't know the language. Right now, there is an interest in this event in Barner, whose Slavic department is very close to collaborating with our Slavic department here. They have this really cool project where they do it with Russian, with Moscow State University, where they have Russian students work with either poetry or English-speaking countries and create video logs of those poems, and then our students do the same with Russian poems. So we're going to hopefully incorporate some of these into the festival as well. But that would be sort of in addition to the submissions that we're hoping to receive. We are thinking about adding other forms of poetry, whether it is poetry in visual poetry, poetry in motion, dance, or other forms of poetic performance, and then also the verse. You guys have the timeline more or less. The deadline is a pretty hard deadline is next Friday because we do need time to start working on it. We would like to have a booklet, and that will take time to print. Will take time to design. We would like to put together a website for people to go to. So we really hope that you could, well, not just you, but anyone who is participating to submit things to us by next Friday.
Well, thank you so much. And if you guys